Welcome to Two Hypnotherapists Talking. We are two established hypnotherapists based on either side of the pond. I'm Martin in Preston, UK.
And I'm Denise in Delaware, USA. Whether you're curious, an avid fan, or a fellow practitioner, I'm sure you'll find something of interest in our weekly conversations with each other and our various guests.
While we both practice hypnosis, we are interested in other aspects of self-help and personal development. So please sing out if you have something to say or want clarification. Our contact details are in the show notes.
So, Martin, let's get on with this week's episode.
Welcome to another episode of Two Hypnotherapists Talking. Denise, how are you?
I'm pretty good today. I'm revved up, ready to start my new program.
Oh, fantastic. Wait, is this the weight management program?
It is indeed.
Oh, you.
So it's going to be rolling enrollment. So I do my introduction call with anybody that's interested. That's tomorrow. We're recording this a week earlier than it's going to air, so obviously it would have happened. But anybody that wants information, we'll get a copy of that plus the freebies that the people interested.
All right, well, we'll stick more info in the show notes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's record a podcast.
All right, let's go.
So something interesting happened this week, and it just prompted a little idea in my head.
What was that, my dear?
Yeah, okay. Well, I got asked by a public relations company, would I like to answer 10 questions as part of a feature they do on their website called 10 Questions. They interview various people within their radar, as it were.
So is this like an article that goes out on the monthly?
Yeah, that type of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it's on their website and they put it out on socials and everything. And I thought it might be a bit of fun if we ask each other these 10 questions, or we just both go through them together. So
see if we can figure out the answers.
Well, yeah, but also if our potential clients wanted to know a bit more about us, these questions will more or less cover it, I think.
Okay, all right.
Are you game for it? Yeah.
I am indeed.
All right, okay. So question 1, how do you like to start your working day?
With lots of caffeine, I'm afraid. I need to be fully awake before I start my waking day. Tuesdays, we're recording this on a Tuesday. Tuesday, I have a 9 a.m. call. So I'm not really quite there yet.
Right, okay, yeah.
When I go to that, but that's with somebody who just worked with me. And it's not a client call. I'd be fully caffeinated by 6 a.m. if I was seeing a client at 9. But coffee's very important.
Yeah.
in my life, unfortunately.
Okay, so for me, how do I like to start my working day? Now, if you'd have asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have said 10 cigarettes and a cup of coffee.
I see, very similar stimulation,
Yeah, now there's no cigarettes involved, thankfully.
Good. But just the coffee.
Yeah, lots of coffee. Yeah, I need at least 3 coffees before anybody dare speak to me.
I must admit, if it's summer or warmer out than it is now, so I don't know if we're going through a really fairly cold patch. So I'm not going out for an early morning walk, but I would do that if the weather were more conducive to walking. And that I find both relaxing. So it's good in the evening too, but it helps me get my brain straight before I start talking to people.
Right, okay.
I should obviously have done it today, never mind.
Yeah, no, I do need my caffeine in the morning, and I'm not particularly sociable till I've had about 3 cups of coffee. The other thing is, until I've had...
Do you think that's actually the caffeine, or is it the amount of time that it takes to prepare and drink the coffee?
I asked myself that same question not too long ago, and it was actually when I'd run out of coffee one day without realising it, so I made some herbal tea.
Herbal tea, not even real tea.
Not even real tea, so there was no caffeine involved.
Oh, no.
No, it was actually okay. And yeah, I think it's more to do with the length of time as well, and the ritual. Yeah. So I have my 3 cups of coffee. I have my bath. I cannot function without a bath. If I leave the house without having had a bath, okay, my day is messed up.
Morning bather.
A morning bather. Yeah,
wow.
my day is messed up if I don't have a bath in the morning, or if for any reason I was late or anything like that, I've got to jump under the shower at least. So that's how I start my working day. All right, let's go to question 2. Oh, here's an interesting one. Where and how do you come up with your best ideas?
Sometimes when I'm talking to you, you sort of blather on about our business and have bright brain waves. I think it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's, what I'm going to cook for dinner, It could be in desperation in front of the fridge. I don't know. Will you answer that first? See if I can come up with something. Your answer.
Well, what does it mean by best ideas? Do they, in business? I'm presuming they mean in business. So where do I come up with my best ideas? Frequently, when I am walking, when I'm doing my long walk, the one that takes me 2 hours, when I do that, after about the first hour, I'm in a completely different mindset, and I can sort of think ahead. Other than that, in the morning while I'm having those cups of coffee.
In my youth, because I am old now, but in my youth, when I had a problem that was needing deep thought, I would go for a walk in the rain. Much easier to do in England because it rains every day, and it doesn't come down in torrents. Like if it's rain here, it gets serious. But you can clear your head, and other than watching out for traffic, it's nice, Get lots of other people on the walk with you. You can mutter to yourself to your heart's content.
So. Okay, right, all right. So
best business ideas. How do you come up with those?
My best business idea is when I'm walking.
Okay.
Yeah, when I'm walking, and like I say, usually after about the first hour, when I've completely decompressed, and I've got a clear mind that I'm in the moment of what I'm doing, that ideas will suddenly.
So you don't go out thinking I must have a bright idea for the next week.
Not at all.
Okay, it just comes into your head.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I can get behind that. It's good. Do you have to write it down, or do you mutter into a machine of some kind?
I tend to, once I've got home, I tend to make a note of it somewhere. You wouldn't see me with a pen and paper on a country walk, though. No.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, well, mine was given to us by a mutual friend of ours, wasn't it? I won't name them on this podcast.
Okay.
But if you remember a few years ago, I was struggling with a particular thing, and she turned around and said to me, just get over your effing self. And you know what? I was that shocked that somebody said that to me, especially this person.
It stayed in your mind ever since.
It stayed in my mind ever since. And I would honestly say that was the best piece of advice I've ever been given.
So you have really gotten over yourself, have you?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
And this was in relation to publicizing your work.
It was, yeah.
I think so. I mean, we all have that. People know. You've got to advertise.
Yeah, it was that thing, as I say, going into... I've worked for myself since I was 23. I've always had businesses, never been frightened of promoting the business.
Right, but you weren't promoting the business.
I wasn't the product, though.
Product, yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Whereas now I'm the product. Yeah, I had a little bit of a mental block over it. So I spoke to somebody who does promote themselves endlessly and shamelessly. And she told me, and very successfully, I may add.
Very successfully, yes.
And she just said to me,
not obnoxious about
no, not at all, not at all. No, this person has my utmost professional respect. But she said to me, just get over your effing self. And I thought, you know what? I'll do that.
And things have been pretty good ever since.
Yeah. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I don't know.
Don't eat yellow snow.
Under that. I think a lot of it of recent, since I've started business, because like you, I didn't have to advertise me. I was part of somebody else's team in the ER. I think a lot of it is that kind of thing. It's, do people really remember? If you make an idiot of yourself on film, will they really remember? No, because I'm never going to be so famous that anybody's going to hang on to the piece of film. It's not going to be a problem.
We'll see you on It'll Be All Right on the night. Okay. So what was the next one? What does leadership mean to you?
By example.
Okay. What does it mean to me? But I'll rephrase the question slightly. What do I see in a good leader? I would say somebody who genuinely pushes somebody to thrive. Mm-hmm. And when they can get respect out of that person, and that person isn't fearful of them.
That's what I mean. Lead by example. You don't.
Yeah.
So you go over there and do that thing. If you can't point to the number of times you've done it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That was a quick one. Let's see if this one gets a little more thought from you.
Number 5, right?
Yeah. What's your top tip for achieving a work-life balance? Now, we're both therapists, so...
And my kids are all well grown up, so it's a little bit of a different issue now. I just sort of announce I've got to work tonight. I'll be on my computer if you need me. It's not quite the same thing. Little kids would be a problem.
Okay, so cast your mind back 30 years. You're working all hours in the emergency rooms. You've got 3 children.
So when I came home, I needed to be home. I needed, particularly David, my middle one. He would often greet me out the door, and it was like, back off. I need a buffer zone between me and
So how did you achieve a work-life balance then?
I usually announced I need to go take a shower and I'll be with you in a few minutes. And that gave me time to be in my own room with a lock on the door.
So you needed that. I like when you use the term buffer zone. Okay. Yeah. Because I call there's something I call shifting heads, which is in effect mental multitasking. You know, when we compartmentalize things and we move things around. All right, then let me expand on this question then. Given your life experience now and your therapy experience, would you give any advice to that 30-year-old Dr. Denise?
Yeah, jump into hypnosis now. I don't know. I wish I had been given the opportunity to learn hypnosis when I was a new doctor.
Yeah. Because
I started my residency at 30, and it was a pretty hellish, because I acquired 2 children along the way. I became a doctor, I got married, I had kids, all before finishing. And then when the 3rd one came along and I was an attending, it was just a breeze. It was like, I have all this time, I don't understand. But I think you also, if you're a parent, you need to respect the kids' needs to have you. And it's pretty much, if you're standing in front of them, you're theirs.
Okay, so if you had a female client now who was, say, a mother of 2 and had a high-flying, high-pressure job, and she came to you with stress and anxiety, what changes could she see be available to her? Because there's a lot of different things available now. Yeah. I think there's a lot of job sharing, things that just didn't exist before. Yeah. Okay.
I can see now, looking back, if the world had been this way when I was first out in practice, I might well have started working in urgent care rather than the emergency room. I love the ER, but it's incredible stress. And you needed that 30-minute ride home to start to come down from it. Yeah.
It's not something you could switch off, because by mere definition of what it is, you've got people coming in there with all kinds of injuries and...
Yeah, they can arrive 2 minutes before you're supposed to be able to walk out the door, and you can't walk out. So,
yes. And I would imagine on an average week you would have seen several people pass away.
Yes.
Yeah.
The highest number of people I saw as the main physician in the room on a night shift. My night shift started at 8 and finished 7 and finished at 7. Was 60.
In one day?
Which is in one night, yeah. That was a particularly hellish night.
Was it just a big department, or was that a bus crash or something?
It was. There was some multiple vehicle accidents, but we weren't the only ER in the area. We're the only one in that town. And we pulled from a lot of what in Britain would be considered villages. We were pulling from other areas. It had a fairly big pull. Not as big as it was when I lived in New York. That was lots of fun in New York. I worked on the Upper East Side, and we had an 800,000 catchment area for our hospital, which is the catchment area of the hospital I was then working at, but spread over many, many miles. With you get several thousand people in a single office, a single apartment building.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Okay, I digress. We don't need to talk about that. Yes.
Okay, so
what's your favorite one?
No, my top tip for achieving a work-life balance. It's something I say to people all the time, and it's something I say to myself when I'm having a word with myself, and that is, the less inclined you feel like doing something, the better the game. So if I'm absolutely bombed out with work and I think I can't possibly fit in my walk today, and I make myself do it, then I will feel so much better. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the less inclined you are to do it, the more reason to do it, I would say. Yeah. All right. Number 6 then. Which current or historical business figure do you most admire, and why? Ooh.
I don't know. I've thought about business figures as professional physicians, yes, there are many physicians that I used. I come from Salisbury. For those British people listening, Salisbury Cathedral's been around a long time, and they have plaques on the walls commemorating various people's demise. One of whom was a 36-year-old physician. I think he's 36. He might be 32. Physician who died during one of the plague outbreaks, and he was sort of my little motif. I used to go and sit in front of his plaque when I was preparing to go to medical school.
Okay.
Get my ducks in a row to go to medical school. I can't remember his name now. I can see the plaque and I can't read it. It's very annoying. But yeah, I don't have any business people. I think there are some that I certainly think are more ethical than others, but I don't really think of me in a business. Hypnotists that I admire, my current guru is Laurie Hammond, who has been on this show before.
Yeah.
And I'm very fond of her approach to hypnosis.
Okay.
And I can't think of anybody in particular. How about you? Do you have any business? Do you have more people since you were in business before you became a hypnotist?
No, mine's going to be a historical figure.
Okay.
Okay, and I can't remember the first name of this person, but it was Cadbury, because they set up the garden villages for their workers, didn't they? They built Bournemouth.
Oh, yes.
They actually acknowledged...
Was it Joseph?
Was it Joseph? Yeah. They set up the idea of, give your staff a day off. And this was back in times when there were no workers' rights whatsoever.
Yeah, right.
Give them a nice house to live in. Give them a garden.
You needed a nice chocolate box.
Yeah.
Picture.
And the other person over here in this country would be, do you remember Timpson's shoes back in the day when you lived over here as a brand?
Sorry, no, by the way, I just looked up Mr. Cadbury. It was John Cadbury, 1801 to 1889, a Quaker who sold tea, coffee, and drinking chocolate.
Oh, there you go.
They also founded Philadelphia, supposed to be the city of brotherly love. That's
not the cheese spread.
No, not that.
No, the other person over here, business-wise, is... do you remember Timpson's shoes as a brand over here, like Dolce's and Freeman Harding Willis? Okay, they were a chain of shoe shops. They're not these days. They're a chain of cobblers, excuse the language, shoe repairers and kiosks and key cutting and that thing. The current figurehead there is John Timpson, and they have an active policy of training and employing ex-prisoners, giving people a second chance. Because we have that cycle of people being released out of prison, nothing to go back to, nowhere to live, no family, etc. And before you know it, they're back in that cycle of committing a crime because they've nowhere to live, they've got no money. So they set up workshops within prisons, training people, and they have a policy of employing former prisoners, giving them a chance. They also pay all their taxes in the UK. They don't do anything dodgy to do offshore things and that kind of thing.
Oh, ethical people.
Yeah. So I really admire John Timpson. Okay. Number 7, what's your most trusted source of news?
It used to be the BBC. I'm not sure anymore. Usually, if I see something, it amazed the things that show up on my YouTube channel. I don't have a TV anymore. I have internet, and everything comes at us through various apps. So when I'm looking for British news, I get an awful lot of absolute rubbish, mostly royal family related or not related, as the case may be. And if I want to do written word, then I use the Telegraph. I get the Telegraph electronic. Okay. How about you? What's your most?
BBC.co.uk for me.
Yeah.
I don't look at any other news other than the headlines of the newspapers on the BBC, just to see what's happening. All right. Oh, here's an interesting one, Denise. What's your favourite brand and why?
Brand of anything in particular?
Brand of anything in particular. It could be brand of tea. It doesn't matter.
We go back to Cadbury's. Cadbury's chocolate's lovely. I don't really have... I sort of feel that that's rather intended. That question is intended to get you back to the ethos of the community, that they've created in their business. Who has good? No, I don't. Do you have a favorite brand? If you tell me, custard, I'll tell you birds because it's the only one I know.
my favourite brand, well, Quality Street. We've just gone through Christmas, haven't we? Now, well, funnily enough, I did say to you the other day, I'd had a route out in my office for something I used to love a lot, was Mont Blanc.
Oh, yes.
Mont Blanc. In fact, watch out for the new specs in a couple of weeks' time. So in terms of luxury brands, yeah, I do quite like Mont Blanc. I like the quality.
I only ever think of them as pens.
Right, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, they do watches, they do spectacles now. As I say, so watch out for those in a couple of episodes' time. I will have them on.
Okay.
I've just been fitted for them.
You must have a very extensive collection of spectacles.
Well, I do, because I've got a pair for every day of the week. I'm like Elton John. I can't do anything with my hair, can I?
Well, yes, so.
Yeah, don't wear makeup. So what else can I do just to, so I don't look at the same thing all the time in the mirror? Change my specs. That's what I do. Okay. Here we go. Number 9. Now, this could be relevant to both of us. What's the most recent new skill you've learned?
Ooh, well, again, with the thing I'm about to bring out, I've learned an additional part to the skill of helping people to lose weight. And I'm going to do it in a group next. Most of my clients have been individual. I've done very few groups because I think most issues are so personal to the person that it's difficult for them to sit through. Although when you present to a group, you have to give, like, not 15, but certainly 3 or 4 ways of presenting an idea, because different personality types pick up different things.
Yeah, of course, yeah, different learnings.
Which means that the audios are way longer than they are for the individual client. So I think this is probably, now, do you mean new skill like NLP? I've got that in training. So it's
any kind of skill,
Oh, well, what's your newest skill?
Well, for me, it's been over the last 3 years being trained to be a professional trainer.
Okay.
Because
you're doing quite a lot of that these days.
I've been doing quite a lot of that these days, yeah. It's really, really strange, because when I look back over the years, I've always been a trainer, because I've always had people working for me. So I've always been training them. But it just didn't register that it was sort of a natural transferable skill to become a formal trainer. So yeah, I would say that's the most recent skill I've learned.
And it's very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, yeah. So I'd say that's my most recent new skill. And the final question, the 10th and final one. We all use them. What management jargon phrase do you use the most?
I don't know. What a terrible question. It's the fact that they say jargon.
Okay, buzz phrase then, buzzword.
Yeah, well, I suppose, but jargon should be the language used in a particular field.
Okay.
So if you and I are talking, we say NLP, we don't have to go define it, because we're talking to hypnotists.
Okay.
When you're talking to a client, of course, you have to say neuro-linguistic programming. If you ask me what's my favorite thing for keeping my business organized, I'd say my calendar. I'm making everybody else link. If they want to go shopping, they have to look on my calendar, see when I'm free.
Okay. I wouldn't call it a management jargon phrase. It's a little catchphrase I use all the time, and that is inclusion means everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, I use that. I use it all the time.
To live by. Yes.
Yeah, I just, yeah, it is. It's my ethos. I think, because there's nothing worse than being left out and not feeling included.
Included, yes.
Because basically all bullying stems from that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, the end result of bullying, the intended result, one assumes, is to isolate the person, to allow them to be less and less.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it works so well as a punishment. When you send a kid for time out, or back in the days of the union, when somebody was ostracized by the other workers if they'd broke a union rule or something. So yeah, I just like that phrase. I use it all the time. Inclusion means everybody. Well, you know what, Denise, when we said we'd do this today, it was like, well, it gives our clients a chance to get to know us a little bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah. And if they're not pushing, no, definitely don't want to talk to them. If you'd like to talk to either or both of us, you can book time on our aforementioned calendars that are in the links below.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're interested in the group weight loss program I'm running, which will start probably about the same time this goes out, it is going to run on an evergreen platform, so you can join at any time you won't have missed much. So by all means, look at the link that Martin will kindly include
in the notes below.
In the chat. Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, brilliant, Denise. I'll see you on the next one.
Okay, dear.
Okay. Bye-bye.
We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please remember, this podcast is designed to give you an insight into therapeutic hypnosis and is for educational purposes only. So remember, consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you've heard may apply to you or a loved one.
Feel free to contact either of us through the links in the show notes. Join us again next week.